and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Jordan, I'm doing very well. My Orlando City Lions have made it to the NBA Finals. I'm really excited about watching. No, that's the wrong sport. That's the other. That never mind. No, my NBA team made the finals. Jordan, were talking about exciting games and what we do to deal with each other's nerves, but or not each other's nerves. I don't really deal with you when you're watch the big
You
game.
get
I'm not
on my
necessarily.
nerves, but you don't.
Yeah. That's what I meant. More of like, but yeah, no, Jordan, I'm really excited. It's always fun to have a sports team in a championship round, and then you're kind of like, I'm sure you've gotten to that point where it's like, all right, we're just excited to be here. But then once the game rolls around, you're like, no, I want to win this damn thing. So I'm sure that's how it'll go. But no, I'm riding on a high and excited to talk some soccer. It's really weird going from the highest of high in sports and intensity to like watching, like a midsummer game of Orlando City. It's just
Losing to the Fire.
different. Yeah. It's just so different.
Well, congrats to the Pacers. Newsflash, nobody cares about the
Well,
NBA.
that's true. The ratings are going to be way down, so nobody's going to watch it. I've heard that all over Twitter. Nobody's watching
What a
it.
Midwest battle
Right.
of the Central America.
Tornadoes are blowing through right now, so they're not even landing. They just had to land that plane, emergency landing.
Did they really?
Yeah, they had to refuel because of the storm. So they circled, I guess, for 2 hours and couldn't land it, so they had to go refuel.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Some would say it's some thunder down there.
Yeah, both of those cities are kind of in that area where things can get a little risky.
Yeah.
How are you? I'm good. Thanks for asking. I usually don't get asked that, actually.
Well,
not just by you, but by any of my co-hosts. So
I usually try to make it a point to ask you. I usually try because I'm like,
you do.
So.
But no, like this was probably the most soccer I'd watched in a weekend for quite a bit. I had on Saturday my since Wednesday my back has been like really bothering me. I have lower back pain, so it kind of got better on Friday because I was in office actually, and that chair is better than this chair that you are watching me in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Saturday, it was awful, and I had to end up missing a birthday party for one of my cousins, and I stayed home while my wife and kid and my parents went to it, and I watched the Champions League final, where. Sheesh. But both of these Champions League finals, but the Champions League final in UEFA, PSG blew them away like what 5-0. Jesus Christ. And it was 2-0 like 15 minutes in, where you're like, okay, this is already looking dire here.
Yeah, it was quick. Both games, it was like, oh, this is not.
Yeah, because then as we pivot to our headlines, Vancouver did lose the CCC final, which we were wrong again, I guess, right? We thought
we cursed everybody
that they were going to win. It was maybe just a little bit too much, right? They had to take on like two Liga MX teams to get here. They had to take on Inter Miami. It just seems like it was one too many teams that they would have had to knock out to win this thing. And I think also I'm not going to try to throw any excuses, but I texted this to you that I cannot wait, or I hope that some point CONCACAF is big enough. And I don't mean members. I mean big enough in our area where people are watching this, where you can host a final at a neutral venue that doesn't give any side a competitive advantage, right? Now, am I saying that because Vancouver lost? Yeah, but
yeah, 100%.
But also, like it when you get this this is not good for the game. Okay, a 5-0 final is not good for the tournament. I really don't think it is. And even if it was reversed and Vancouver wins 5-0 at home, those same sort of questions would crop up of, is this too much of an advantage?
Mm-hmm.
because look, I understand that like teams have had finals in the Champions League, in UEFA at home, but typically the way that they sell those tickets would still be like through like it's not going to be a majority of those fans. Like they would still allot a certain amount for the final through different means. This type of final, 33,000, most of those fans were, Cruz Azul fans, which, more power to that. If my team was in the Champions League final and it was in Philly, I would be there, right? Because why not? Like, that's an advantage. You're giving your team the advantage you can. So I don't really blame anything on that end, but I just hope that there is a day where we can have a UEFA style model of here's a neutral venue, and that, like, let's say they had it in Portland, that people in that area would go to the game and that people would travel to that area of the game, and you would have like a good fan mixture. I think that would be really cool. But plus it also allows for those headlines too, right? Where it'd be like the Whitecaps are headed to Oregon or whatever, and they're like, it's the same way like when Super Bowl, when people were like, we're going to New Orleans because that's where it is that year. You don't have that. You have to kind of sit around and be like, well, which team had the better record and which team is going to host? And you have to figure this type of stuff out of who's going to host if this team makes it, who's going to host if this team makes it. And I think that also at times is a boost for the tournament in the sense of it's most likely going to sell out because it's going to be one of the teams there. And that's what I mean by like needing CONCACAF to be large enough for this. But I also think it's kind of tough for a team to be able to like turn around and be like, we have to host this in a couple weeks now. They have to like have time to prepare. While like if you already know ahead of time in that year, like, oh, the finals in Texas and Austin, like, all right, we know that now. And like Austin is preparing year round for it or something. But just kind of my 2 cents with that. And it's just kind of a bummer because I think it kind of hurts the CONCACAF Champions Cup to a certain degree, especially when you get a drubbing like this. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the 5-0 loss by the Whitecaps?
I think those are really solid points, and I know you and I were texting about it some. And no, I agree. I think if CONCACAF's bigger in this region, I think that there's a possibility for that. But then, I mean, you could also make the argument, Jordan, that when I went to go cover the game against Tigres and Orlando City, that stadium was mostly Tigres fans. So, I think people will point to, well, what if the Mexican fans can't travel to, I mean, I wouldn't want to travel this country at this point anyway, but because who knows what's going to happen.
That's a
And
good
now I
point.
know World Cup is becoming an issue with just the way that we're treating people that are coming to just visit or even try to live in our country. It's just not fair to them.
Yeah.
But, besides the point, I do think that there would be enough fan support from both sides, Jordan, if your team makes the Champions League final. I do think that they could fill up stadiums with, and there's a lot of neutral Liga MX fans and MLS fans that are just soccer sickos, and they'll go watch it. Like,
Well,
if Cruz Azul,
sorry, not to really cut you
no,
off here,
yeah,
but this is the issue, right? Is what if it had been MLS versus MLS? Now, if you had a Vancouver versus who was one of the teams that could have made it on the other side? Like, I'm blanking
I can't even
on
think
who
of who
was
was
on
on
the
the
other
other
side
side.
of the bracket that ended up losing. But there was a chance, if everything had went the right way, that we could have had Vancouver versus another MLS team. The reason why we don't have neutral sites in MLS for MLS Cup is kind of this worry of what if we end up with Pacers and Thunder?
Yeah, that's
And
true.
the finals in
Yeah,
New York. You're like, is anybody coming to this?
right.
I've been to a neutral site MLS Cup. That's the only MLS Cup I've been to. And it partly we were able to go to it because it was near us. It was at RFK Stadium.
Hmm.
Um, it was Houston and New England, right? So I remember it being very well populated, but that could be because New England is close by to,
Yeah,
like it's not far.
not far from DC. Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't like sold out, sold out. I mean, like it was a football stadium. So I mean, who knows how
Mhm.
much they were actually selling and stuff. But at a certain point, they stopped doing those neutral sites. I think around 2011, right? Yeah, I think around 2011 because I think Galaxy won it at their neutral site at home, and that was just like happened to be. And then like the next year after that, they hosted it or something. But I went in '07. Um, they started having neutral site. I remember like Toronto, when Toronto entered the league, they were like granted an MLS Cup. I think that was '09's MLS Cup when it was RSL versus uh, Galaxy. Does that? I mean, those type of MLS Cups were always weird because they were, you could have two West teams, two East teams, but that type of setup, I think Toronto actually did very well with selling them and stuff. But it kind of felt like trying to be the Super Bowl. But the issue is, again, can you sell it? So I think you're right that, like, let's say any Mexican team gets to a final. We've seen them sell out Leagues Cup games here with those
Yeah,
teams. We've seen them
easily.
sell, Mexican national team games, right?
Yeah.
Friendlies, even. Uh, I don't think that'd be the problem. I think one thing that would prohibit them from doing that is two MLS teams making it, or because let's say it's Vancouver and Seattle, but the final was already set for New York.
Mhm.
CONCACAF at that point scrambling. They're like, crap, how do we move these
That's true.
tickets? If and God, God forbid, like a Guatemalan team makes it to the final on a hell of a run or something, CONCACAF would really be scrambling then. But
Yeah,
you know,
they would be inviting they'd be flying up the Guatemalan population. Like, "Come
right,
on,
right. I mean,
let's come fill the
there.
stadium."
I mean, I guess
There is in the
CONCACAF
US,
always
but
has those areas. But again,
yeah.
like, what if you had already had the final scheduled in an area where those people were not a majority, or like even
Minnesota.
yeah, like it's
Right.
like, whoa, okay. Um, so I think that's the problem, honestly. Maybe it's just an American issue, right? Maybe it's not even CONCACAF. It's just CONCACAF is like, well,
Yeah,
we're screwed if we do this and like two MLS clubs in the West Coast make it to an East Coast final.
right. And I think I mean, we can talk about other sports, and I would say more so, obviously, the Super Bowl because no
That's the only
other
one that does it, right?
right, that does the neutral site. But if
The
you
only one
look
that's one
back
game.
right, if you look at the neutral site Super Bowl, um, you do have a lot of, and I think this is the same thing in Europe that I've noticed. If you watch the finals, sometimes it will be, it will obviously be the two teams playing, but you do see a bunch of the neutrals wearing their kits or their jerseys, especially in the Super Bowl. Like there's constantly like they'll pan and it's fans from all over. Um, but yeah, I think that the
Yeah.
biggest thing with the United States, and this is a problem we run into with trying to grow the game too, is that every city is like its own country. I mean, it really is. Like when you take it, even the states are even like their own countries on top of
Different
countries.
laws, different
Right.
culture.
Yeah. It's just everything in the United States is so much bigger. And honestly, Jordan, I've always
That's
that's
Texas.
what I've disliked. That's what I've kind of disliked about the US is just how big it is because you want to see everything, but in our lifetimes, especially nowadays, like we won't see everything in the United
Like, I
States
was
or
just plotting out a road trip that I want to take with my wife, and I'm
yeah.
like, trying to get to Illinois, and it's like
Yeah.
12 hours.
It's
So I'm like
crazy.
lower Illinois. Like I was looking at uh Metropolis, Illinois,
No,
because they actually have a Superman museum there, and I was like, that'd be cool.
that would be
And
fun.
you can cut through actually like Kentucky's on the way and like stopping at
Yeah.
Louisville. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I could go to like Louisville
The
Slugger
bats,
Museum.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like
Louisville's
that would
nice,
be,
it's okay. I
and then
like it
3
there.
hours later you go to Metropolis or whatever. I'm like,
Right,
all right, this is possible, but like again, that's just such a long trip, right? Like I would be driving, I probably
especially with
wouldn't be
a
flying.
child. So,
Yeah, yeah, unless
I
like
mean,
we
if
did
Landon
fly
goes
in, but
Yeah, but then I
Yeah,
like
I'm sure he would
if
go.
Landon gets older, like those are the kind of road trips that you'll want to take. Like those
Yeah,
that'd
I
be cool
remember
for him.
driving down to Florida a million
Yeah,
times for Disney and stuff.
right. Oh, he'll love those. Like as he gets older, to be able. I mean, that's one thing I remember about my childhood was even the journey to get there felt like an adventure. Because what does a kid do
Yeah.
in a vacation? Hell, he's playing the Game Boy or whatever it might be
Right,
that the
that's
kids
exactly
do
it's
these
like, "Oh,
days.
I
Like,
got 12 hours to
yeah,
play this
it's
game."
great. Yeah, no rules. Eat whatever I want. Drink soda.
Yeah, we're
Like,
stopping at
don't have to worry.
Culver's all the
Yeah,
time.
and the only time you're ever worried about anything is like, all right, I'm hungry. Are we there yet? Or like, there were
Right,
times,
right.
obviously, you get bored playing the game. But Jordan, I remember when we got that minivan that had the little TV up there and we had the PlayStation access to it. Like, we PlayStation like for 10 hours. My parents hated it because, it played the sound over the speakers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nowadays, like, you can get
You
your
could
own
probably put
individual little,
headphones and
yeah, it'd be great. But yeah, no, that'd be a fun for. I still think an MLS road trip would be very feasible, like them and MLB, just because the tickets are cheap. I think that would be fun, like on the bucket list. And you and I we've done a little small, I guess, road trip around your area, but um, it'd still be
yeah.
fun to do.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too is like I've been watching a lot of like British people reacting to the distances of
Mm-hmm.
us here and I'm like, yeah, I mean my closest MLS team is about an hour and a half away each way, to either
Yeah.
DC or to Philly
Right.
and it's
Well, mine too. They just it's just 20 miles down the road. It takes an
yeah,
hour and a half
yeah.
to get there, though.
But yeah,
So,
so Vancouver ends up losing. They lost 5-0 last year. The Crew lost 3-0 to Pachuca. LAFC lost 3-1 to Club Leon a couple years ago. 2022 was Seattle's first year. First year that's when they had the two-legged final, right? 5-2 on aggregate. Seattle won. So we've had an MLS team in the finals those straight number of years. If we go back to 2021, is the last time it was two Mexican clubs in the final, Monterrey, Club America. So we've kind of had that. And then LAFC was also in the final in 2020. Remember that? And they got, I believe, kind of blown out of that one, didn't they? Trying to find
I
the
think from what I remember,
final.
it was like 3-1 or 3-4-1 or something like that. I could
Yeah, I thought that they
more.
had like a good chance and then it just kind of fell apart. Oh, 2-1. 2-1.
Okay, so it wasn't as
So I was
bad as I
wrong.
thought.
Chalk it up. Another wrong thing said here on the podcast. 2019, Monterrey and Tigres. Toronto made the final in 2018. They lost to Guadalajara. So it's a common theme, right? Whether it's an American club, whether it's a Canadian club, these MLS clubs are losing. Montreal Impact lost in 2014, 2015. I remember I was on program following that game on my second college program. Let's see. And then the last time before that was when RSL made it against Monterrey, and they even had like a lead at some point in the final, and then the second, or had a good opportunity in the second leg to grab the lead, and they ended up losing 3-2 on aggregate. But kind of the worrying thing for me, Logan, I think it's good they're getting there. I think that's fine. 5-0 loss, and then last year the Crew losing 3-0 at one of our better teams in the league, right?
Yeah.
In the last 3 years.
Yep.
Getting blown out. Those are the worrying signs for me. But here's the thing. I think people will kind of be like, oh, same old, same old. How long can we hang our hat on the Seattle win, I guess? But at least we have that still. And it's not like
That's
if
true.
they had choked it and we still went without an MLS club winning, I think I'd be a little bit more upset. But just kind of is what it is at this point.
I put it in the notes just because I think it's an interesting topic to talk about because it's the topic that comes up every single time that something like this happens. And, we've still got Leagues Cup for at least this year. I don't know how much more that goes on. But Jordan, at what point honestly, like I feel like it's a carryover effect into the way that even the country views not only the league, but U.S. soccer in general, even though, we do have European players that play on the U.S. men's national team, obviously, but we're starting to get more youth from MLS, Jordan. And I think that we're starting to get this undercurrent of really young players who are developing in academies and stuff over in the United States. At what point do you feel like it's coming soon, whether it's the new players association like
Ooh.
contract, like do you feel like there will be a move towards a more, because we're already talking about transfer windows trying to move that, but they've decided not to do that next season to be on a more European scale. But when do we start to get into allowing teams to spend the amount of money that make us because I still think that is going to be a real issue if you're trying to get top mid, or at the age of in their prime talent over here in MLS. I'm afraid that you can't do it based off of how much money they can give players to come over in their prime when that becomes a possibility, or even to stay. Because I just feel like the money here and the cap, and with all the money rules and the DP spots, I feel like it's kind of holding the league back at some point.
No, I don't think you'll like the answer. I think it's going to take a while still. Slower than people would want. And I think it's going to be, look, there's a couple positives that this league still has, which is that it's in America. Though, maybe the next 4 years might have a little bit more problems with that, but it's in America, right? And then you also have the clubs pay people on time, right? We've heard about the clubs, not just in like South America or like Africa clubs and stuff, but also clubs in Europe that struggle paying players. Some of the Turkey clubs, I think there was issues with like Bonavista or whatever with paying like for the Reggie Cannon stuff and all that Dallas, like that stuff's still going on. And so that's still a reason why you're a destination, is because of the way that they do control spending. You won't have as many clubs going bust in MLS over here than you will when, I mean, we've seen a few clubs go into administration over in England even, which has a rich culture, right? But they have so many teams that some of them end up falling by the wayside a bit. So some of those players will come over here just because they have the opportunity to. We also have the fact that the game isn't as big over here. You do have some sort of anonymity that some players are going to opt for. Messi is like the only player that hasn't really worked for, I would say, right now. But, there are players that have said they came over here because they like the idea of like walking down New York and nobody realizing that they're a famous player, right? So that's a positive. But for us to get to the point where we are consistently, I would say, competing on a level in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and stuff like that, is you also need the USL thing to work. You need it to work a bit, because what you also, I think, need, we still need clubs throughout this country getting the young talent that is being falling through the cracks from our system, right? There are players that have fallen through the cracks that had the opportunity to go to MLS and either went somewhere else, and then you're like, how did an MLS team not get this kid or whatever? How are they not on the radar? Like you said, the country is so large, right? So you do need this USL Premier, whatever they're going to call it, and the Pro-Rel section of that, the other tiers, to continue to do what USL is doing right now, which is existing and starting academies. It will give some of those players opportunities to be found. You always say about like how nobody cares about Omaha, like on a professional level. But let's say there is the next Christian Pulisic in Omaha. We need some club to be able to locate him there and not have him. Because the other issue is with this country, if they are in Omaha, they either have to move to a place where they can get located, or the parent ends up having to drive hours and hours to and pay tons of insane money to get their kids seen at a certain level. So the whole pay to play structure in the youth soccer clubs and stuff is also a big detriment to this. But having those USL clubs be able to have academies and do that will help as well. And then also just when they do that, even USL teams that are in or close to MLS markets, if they kind of have a bidding war between a hot young prospect, that will help as well, I think. Because it gives the player options. It gives the player options on where they want to go, who controls their rights. But also, if USL starts finding all these young players, then MLS teams are going to think we need to find those players because we can sell those to Europe or we can have the next hot prospect, and that makes them fund their academies more. I really think academies on all professional levels are a huge thing that needs to happen to have these long-term ramifications, because it's either going to be you're finding players that are going to play on your team, or you're selling them to be able to fund players that you're going to bring in to your team. That's just how the way like the soccer global market works, right? So I do think we need that to work and be successful to elevate MLS as well, which is why I think MLS doesn't see it as much of a like a bogeyman that's out to get them right now, because I think they understand that this can drive them up a level as well, just from having competition to certain players in the markets or whatever. So that's kind of like my pitch. You need a lot of this stuff to kind of go the right way. I would even say like college, I think they're talking about expanding their season. You need that to happen. The college soccer season is so short and it's so condensed into one little period. If you extend those, get players more game time, so that way when they do get drafted by MLS teams or wherever they're going, they are ready to play longer minutes. You don't have to, maybe stretch them out as much, and they can contribute to the team more. So, and like you said, they will also have to expand salary cap rules because we need bigger rosters. The depth is one of the biggest issues that this team has compared to a team from like Mexico. We have no depth because for some reason we're restricting how many players can be on a roster. Expand that and expand the salary cap to adjust for how many more roster spots you're adding, and I think you start allowing that to happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with some of those points. I still think if you cannot pay a player to come over here in their prime when they can go make 3 times as much in Europe, they're going to pick Europe. They're not going to pick here. And the talent level is already good enough there where, like, what's the difference? So I don't know. I get your point with USL. I just think that the way that MLS wants to keep expanding and the way that they've tried to put their imprint on academies, I think they're also trying to figure out ways, like you said, to put different, I guess, bases in these cities that they can try to filter talent from. And like you pointed out, the pay to play, I mean, travel ball, it became so big when I was playing sports in high school and has taken off even more. Like, I mean, my niece plays softball and has to travel sometimes hours to go practice. Practice, Jordan. I'm not talking about playoffs. I'm talking about practice. Practice, man. But yeah, it's crazy because I mean, obviously the US is so big. It's going to be very difficult, but it just I don't know. I feel like MLS is always going to be playing behind the 8 ball if they can't at least entice somebody every once in a while to come over that's not 35 years old plus and a star that is fading. I don't know. I think there's a lot of growth opportunities. And like you said, the biggest thing would be depth right now. Like
Yeah,
none of these teams can run up against a Mexican team because they
for
can
how
bring
many
in 3 more
competitions
players.
for how many competitions
Right.
these players are playing. We talked about it last week when we talked about Pulisic getting a break and some of these players getting breaks, that they have no downtime. The fact that they've kind of done a better job this year with being like, okay, only you are in Open Cup, only you are in Leagues Cup, only you are in
Yeah.
CCC. But with how many competitions are out there, it is tough to field a competitive team that has depth that can play Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, or whatever however you're playing. Yeah. So long story short, I think it's going to take a long time for us to be consistently competitive in that regard. Let's talk about let's hold off on the fire announcement for a second. Let's get to the Club World Cup, because there was a team that did successfully beat a Mexican club, right? We had LAFC, who beat Club America. They were losing. They score in like the 87th minute to make it 1-1. And then they score like right before penalties would happen to make it a 2-1 win. I thought it was going penalties. I had it on my phone while I'm like watching something else, and I'm like, and as soon as I turned it on, they scored the goal to win. Well, no, because I had it on right around extra time, but it felt like as soon as I turned it on, they were winning. But yeah, so pretty good result for LAFC. They punched their ticket to the Club World Cup. I know David left a message for us on the YouTube, like, hey, where's the talk about, I think he called it the biggest game in I don't know if he said league history, but it was maybe definitely the biggest in LAFC history, as they get to go to the Club World Cup now, after winning the play-in against Club America at home. So we get Inter Miami, LAFC, and Seattle winning the Champions Cup in 2022, that are going to be in the Club World Cup. So when we thought we would only have one team from MLS, we end up with three, thanks to CONCACAF saying, yes, Messi, Miami, you are in as a host nation spot. And LAFC getting the play in after, I think the issue was that one of the other teams that were originally qualified, their owners also owned another team that's in the Club World Cup, I think is what the issue was, which is why they did the play-in or something like that, which, then they picked the next two teams that would face off, being LAFC and Club America. But they'll all receive $9.55 million for participating in it, as it kicks off June 14th. All of the Seattle players, though, were wearing shirts talking about how this is a cash grab. And, MLSPA put out a statement saying about how little amount the players are going to get of the prize money, which was causing quite a bit of a storm, too. But these are our Club World Cup teams. And, like you said last week, the Club World Cup has taken priority for FIFA from some of these tournaments that they're in elsewhere. They're trying to make it a big deal.
Yeah. Like I said, watching the NBA, because my team was playing on TNT, it was every commercial, Jordan. It started with the Club World Cup. They're trying to.
It was like right after we were done recording, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You sent it to me.
Yes. The funny thing is like a lot of these teams, Jordan, they've packed it up for the summer. Like that's going to be a hard sell for a lot of people to want to tune into this, because there's going to be some players that don't play. And I get that it's in the United States and that it's exciting to see. I mean, look at that, Jordan. That's so weird seeing LAFC being linked up against Chelsea at Mercedes-Benz on June 16th. It's crazy to read that, but also, we get some of this with the summer tour that the Premier League does. So it's not like it's, crazy that these teams are over here. I get the allure of it. I do. And MLS, those teams will be at their best. So there might be some, MLS wins in laying in here. But again, it does feel,
I'm more excited about this than the Leagues Cup. Yes. And I'm more excited about it than the Gold Cup. And I'm more excited about it than any stupid preseason friendly tour that they try to pump up. I've been through so many of those preseason tours at this point where they also don't play their star players, that at least this, they're trying, whether you like it or not. I always thought there should be a Club World Cup. When they had the 7-team version, I was like, this is a bastardization. It should be more clubs. It should. When do you play that? That's a bigger question, but this has the opportunity to, and the fact that they actually put big prize money in it is big. The issue is the players don't get any time off, and that continues to be the thing, right? Is
Add
that
more.
you're adding more. Now, of course, I think the goal here is for this to be every 4 years and not every year like the 7-team version was. So maybe it's a little bit more possible to make it a big deal. But I don't know. I've seen people ask like, "Are you guys actually excited for this online?" And I am. I kind of lost a little bit of it when I saw how much it would cost me to go to a game, because I wanted to go to a Club World Cup just to be like, I've been at that tournament. That's cool. 2 teams that I don't care about cost me $40, while a Chelsea game against a nobody team is $100 some dollars. I can't
Yeah.
afford that right now. So it makes me a little worried about the price of the World Cup. There's been some reports about how much the World Cup might cost next year.
I think it's
So
got to be over $1,000, right? Just to get into the World Cup.
no, it should not be that much. And if it
Really?
is, then nobody's showing up.
Well,
You
you say
cannot
that.
continue. Rich people will show up. You cannot continue to have prices. We talk about it all the time for sports. You cannot continue to have sports prices keep going up. You can't. Like, at some
You can
point,
if people keep paying for them. Hell, the NBA Finals is that you can't get in unless you pay $1,000. Like, I can't imagine in LA, Jordan, that the American, like, going to see the United States won't cost you $1,000.
I don't know, maybe on the secondhand market, but I don't think list price it's going to be
Oh,
$1,000.
no, no,
You
no,
just have
no,
to be
no,
lucky to
no.
get in
Yeah,
there and
right.
get the regular
Or be
ticket.
season ticket holders for whoever's team plays in there for football.
One thing that surprised me is I was trying to get Savannah Banana tickets at Oriole Park Canyon Yards.
Those
I
are
won the draw.
bananas, I hear.
They are bananas. The price was bananas. They're I got the lottery pick. I was able to go check out tickets, and I immediately closed it out. Like, no, because you know how much they wanted for upper reserve. Pretty much
I'd guess
anything.
$100 each.
No, it is lower than that,
Oh, okay.
but still, in my
60.
opinion, not worth it, because I think Banana Ball times itself at 2 hours anyway, so you're only
Yeah.
guaranteed to get 2 hours out of this. But the lower section closer to the field was $60 a ticket, and the rest of the seats, no matter where you sat other than that, was $40 a ticket. So
Yeah,
even the
that's
worst
tough.
seat is
Yeah,
$40 a
tough.
ticket.
Those are
And
usually like
you know
16.
what? I got a notice a couple hours after I had the opportunity to buy it that they sold out both nights. So yes, people are somehow. Look. I did that more for the lottery because like my wife seems interested in Banana Ball. I've watched some of it on ESPN Plus, and I'm like, it's fine. I don't really get the big
That's very
hullabaloo
Harlem
about it.
Globetrotter. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Globetrotters. Yeah.
But
More people are showing up to those than they are the Gold Cup.
yeah. I mean, they're selling out every single place they've
Maybe
gone.
we can turn the Gold Cup into like a shenanigans kind of cup, like where
Every
guys are like,
5 minutes, a gold ball goes on the pitch and it
yeah,
costs 5
yeah,
goals.
and
Is how
somebody's out
much
there
that
trying to
is.
punch you with a boxing glove.
But that's the frustrating thing about it was
Yeah.
I'd rather go for that price to a regular soccer game or a regular baseball game than $40. And at that point too, I didn't actually look to get. I just saw the map of it. I didn't actually go to see what tickets were available. What if only the $60 were available? I'm not
Yeah.
spending $120 for me and my wife. The kid should be free because he's under 2. But
Hmm.
I mean, ticket prices are insane everywhere right now,
Yeah.
except for maybe a normal Orioles game.
Yeah, they pay you to come watch them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And I was looking at when we can take Landon to the Philadelphia Union, and they really only have like one home game in September, one home game in October, and that's it. Like, so there's a couple in July, maybe 1 or 2 in August. I'm like, holy crap. Like, I don't have a lot of options already on what game I could take him to. So I don't know. Maybe I wait to see if we win get to the MLS Cup final and take him to his first game.
Yeah.
The MLS Cup final, have him bundled up in December, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, Chicago. The Fire have unveiled plans for a new privately funded soccer-specific stadium that they hope to open in spring 2028. It would seat apparently 22,000 fans and be located along the Chicago River just south of Roosevelt Road. And I guess they're making a new district neighborhood called the 78th neighborhood, right? Future 78th neighborhood. I don't know much about Chicago. You're a Cubs fan. You've been there a million times. Is
Mhm.
this a good area? Like, is this do you think this gets people in seats? Like, what do you think?
Um, I don't know too much about that area because I don't want to talk on it because I mean, the Riverwalk's a nice area. Like that whole Riverwalk, like up and down the Chicago River is
I feel like
beautiful.
I've walked up and down that when I was there.
Yeah, like it's a beautiful river, and if they're building a neighborhood like this, Jordan, it's going to be very like music festival heavy. It's going to have bars and places to hang out, breweries, and I
Oh,
think that's what they meant for it to be, along with this stadium. I think that they're going to try to build out it like they usually do with Chicago. They'll take these neighborhoods and they'll in like blocks that they exist, they'll block them out to where they can build these entertainment live music and entertainment kind of pavilions. And everything that they've ever done like that, though, has been wonderful. So I'd be excited if I was a Chicago fan just because of how good that city has become. I mean, Jordan, in the summer, there's probably not a better city in the world. Like it is so nice to be there in the summer because the weather's great. There's tons to do. They've got great waterfront areas. I mean, Chicago is a really good city once you get great food. And I think where that's going to be built, like the 78th neighborhood, that's in downtown, so that downtown area. But I don't know exactly what side of the city that's on. So I mean, I can look it up, but
yeah. I don't know. I
like I
like
could
that's
tell you where it
privately
is.
funded. That's good. More of a chance for it to actually happen. I guess it's going to happen, right?
I mean, it looks like it privately funded. I mean, that's usually great because you're not having to worry about the public funding it or
No, you still need to get like. I guess they
yeah,
shouldn't have any
approval.
problem getting like permits and stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So it looks like it says it will extend.
Natural grass too. I like that.
Yeah, it says it's going to extend the loop area. So Jordan, this is if that's the case, I mean, it's in the heart of downtown. Like this would be the most
Hmm.
centralized soccer stadium probably in any American city that I can think
Wow.
of. Like if it's talking about extending the loop is the heart of Chicago. Like that's where that is. I figured it would be because it's near the Chicago River and the river doesn't go that far. So, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, it's on the like near the lake, like I can't imagine what ticket prices will be. It'll be nuts. But yeah,
Yeah, only 22,000 seats too. So,
yeah. Or
I-
Jordan, Andrew will be excited.
yeah. Are they back? They beat
They're
Orlando
back.
and they get a stadium announcement.
They're so
That's
back.
that's a
They're
pretty big
so back.
week. That's a pretty big week for
This is the
Chicago.
biggest week they've ever had. Shut it down, shut the city down, get a parade going. Like that's worth celebrating. But $650 million, Jordan, like that's a lot of money for a
Chump
stadium.
change for the
Oof.
owners, I bet.
Yeah. Who can barely put product on the field. Well, they're doing better, but
They are doing better, and I would say I think once they get a stadium like this, it'd be a little easier to do so.
I mean Don Garber, Jordan, he said that Mansueto isn't just building a soccer stadium. He's reshaping the future of soccer in Chicago.
Wow,
Like they're just
Chicago, the home of U.S. soccer.
right. And the Chicago Cubs. It's gonna be
Yeah,
great. I might switch
you
my allegiance. You never know.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see if they keep beating Orlando, and then we'll
Right.
we'll figure that out. Let's get to the results of the match day. Messi had another 5 goal contribution game. They're back to third in the East. Just an insane game from Messi. That's the thing too. That was my game of the week, by the way. That was my game of the week.
Yeah, it was.
Uh, versus the Crew. I was really wondering how that would um, shape up. I was saying, last time Miami got the better of the Crew after they were both undefeated, and it continued that way with this game. Whitecaps, they had beat Saprissa, Monterrey, Pumas, and Inter Miami. They end up falling short. We talked about that. But they're still second in the Supporter Shield standings. They have 2 games in hand, of course, to Philadelphia. So they should be, if they win those games, kind of back in that conversation of best team in MLS. I still think they are. Union have a 4-point week and a 4-point lead at the top of the East, midpoint of the season right now. So they would, of course, they had 23 shots against 10-man Dallas there, but 0-0 draw. I think that's still a good road result here.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think that's cool. San Diego end up not being able to beat Seattle. The Loons could beat Seattle, and they did. I'll tell you a funny story about this. So they drew with Vancouver on Wednesday, and then they beat Seattle 3-2 at Lumen Field. Their first ever victory at Seattle. I was at my parents' house on Sunday, and I was watching it on my phone while they were, watching something else on TV. And I had to go upstairs for something, and it was like second half just kicked off, and I went upstairs real quick. Probably spent I don't know, I guess 15 minutes up there, and came down to see it 3-1. I was like, what the hell happened to this game? Yeah. And I'm reading out the times. It was like 51st minute, 52nd minute, 54th minute, 55th minute. I was like, holy shit, these goals are just going in. But yeah, so that was funny. Nashville, they had a draw against Columbus and NYCFC, 2-2 draws. They're climbing. They're climbing up. Well, I don't know about climbing, but they're holding their own up there, which we weren't sure if they would. And then the Crew are winless in the last 6 games as they are beaten by Miami 5-1, as we alluded to earlier. Just very uncharacteristic of the Crew, right? Like, what is their last 6 games after that Miami loss, or is it including that loss, the original loss when they were undefeated? Because they were undefeated for a time, right? And then now they're not able to get a win. So
yeah, because that's when they moved that game to, I think, where the Bengals play or something like that.
No, not where
the Bengals.
Where the Browns.
That was the wrong team. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine what a troll job that would be? Like, we're gonna play in Cincinnati.
Yeah, now that I think about that was Sorry, I misspoke. That is funny. That would have been the ultimate troll. But yeah, no, I think it was right. Like, I think it was that stretch where they weren't.
I'm scared to pull up the form guide with my computer.
I got you. I got it. I think it was like 6 games. That seems like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah,
or
let's
like
look back
probably
at it.
A month ago, right? With
What? Sorry, it goes all the way back to that game they had against the Union at the Union. They've drew with the Union. They drew with Montreal. They drew with Cincinnati. Lost to Charlotte. Or no, sorry, they did have 2 games. I was trying to find out where the Miami game was. They beat San Jose after the Miami game, and then they beat Charlotte. But then after that, they've gone on this really tough stretch of really, Jordan, not beating teams that have been playing. Like Montreal and Charlotte haven't been playing that well.
They weren't, no.
And Cincinnati's kind of a weird team right now, even though they're higher in the standings. They've not really found it after that win streak. They've been struggling too. We're in the middle of summer, Jordan. Like, it feels like all these teams are going to go through their weird where you thought you could pull away from the rest of the pack, but they don't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where we feel we're at with, and then you're going to have all these weird competitions coming up. If you're an MLS fan, this is a tough time. Like, this is a real tough time to watch just because the teams are missing players for international windows, and you've got players playing in random cups, and then games getting canned. Like, next week we only have like 6 games in MLS. It's a weird time.
Yeah, since we have so few games, we wanted to take a look back at what we had predicted at the beginning of the season and just kind of revisit, see how on target we are for some of these and how off target we are, I guess, for some of these. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the West Coast predictions. Let's start there. my West Coast predictions here. I had LAFC top, Seattle second, Houston third, San Jose fourth, Rapids fifth, Galaxy sixth, Dallas seventh, Minnesota eighth, RSL ninth, Portland 10th, SKC 11th, Vancouver 12th, San Diego 13th, Austin 14th, and St. Louis 15th. There's a couple of these I'm close on if we look at the actual table right now, which is, Vancouver in first, San Diego in second, Minnesota third, Seattle fourth. Kind of close with Seattle. I have them in second. They're close. They can get to second in a couple weeks, right? Portland is in fifth right now. LAFC is in sixth. San Jose is in seventh. I had them fourth. Don't know if that's going to happen. Colorado in eighth. Houston in ninth. Austin in 10th. Dallas 11. SKC 12. I have them as 11. I'm taking a victory lap on that right now. RSL is in 13th. St. Louis is in 14th. And LA Galaxy is in 15th. I don't think they're going to get to 6 where I have them, but I'm close with St. Louis, so much so that they fired their manager last week right after we were done recording.
Yeah, Olaf is gone. That's sad. He was great in Frozen.
Yeah. So that is where I stand on these. Let's go ahead and look at Logan's West Coast. Did you have any more? No, not really. Okay, you have Vancouver 6 spots higher than I did in 6.
Yeah, feeling real good about that one.
You're closer. You have San Jose right now, perfect 7th place.
I knew it. See, I wasn't gonna be wrong. Houston's 1 spot above where they are. Austin's 1 spot above. Like, you might as well call me a Houdini at this point because look how good that is.
Nostradamus.
Well, yeah, true. Right? Sporting KC one below. Like,
we both had them 11. Yeah,
look at us go.
Oh, RSL, you nailed 13th.
We're see, you might as well come to us for all your betting needs.
You have Dallas in 14th. They're in 11th. That's not far off. And you have St. Louis in the same. You have St. Louis in 15th. They were 14th.
Yeah, thanks, LA Galaxy.
Nobody thought the Galaxy would be like this.
No, not this bad. Loons, I could see the Loons getting into the 5th spot, maybe.
I think it's possible. Yeah, I mean they're what, 3rd? Yeah, they can fall 2 spots.
Yeah, they could do it.
But not too bad. Not too bad.
No.
All right. I think I'm really curious to see where we go with the East.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the East. I had Miami 1. I had Atlanta 2nd. I'm in some trouble there. Cincinnati 3rd.
Wait till the later prediction.
Orlando 4th. Columbus 5th. I nailed it. Thank you.
Did. Look at
halfway point of the season.
And Red Bull.
New York 6th. Nailed it.
You did. Look at you.
I have
Charlotte
NYCFC 7th. I have Charlotte in 8th. I have the Union in 9th, which is
Chicago's close.
Way too far off. Chicago's in 10th. They're in 11th in real life. Nashville, I had 11. Oh, Toronto, I had 12. They're 14 in real life. Montreal is 13th. They're 15th in real life. That's not too far off. New England, I have 14th. They're up to 10th now.
Yeah.
And then DC United, I had 15th. They're up to 12th. I feel a little better about this one, actually, honestly.
Yeah, it's good.
Outside of Atlanta and Philly, having if I just switched those two, I feel like I'd feel a lot better about my predictions.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Logan, you had Miami 1, Orlando 2, Cincinnati 3, Atlanta 4, Charlotte 5, Red Bull 6. There you go. There's your first one. Okay. Columbus 7, Chicago 8, Philly 9, NYCFC 10. You had them 9. They're 9 in real life. New England, you had as 11. They're 10 right now. DC is 12th. You had them 15th. Nashville, you had 14. Toronto, you had 13th. They're 14th. And Montreal 12th. Yeah, okay.
Dang.
There you go. That I feel like I won that. I felt like I won the East. You probably won the West.
Yeah. So pretty solid so far. Jordan.
We had the MVP as Lionel Messi. To be determined. If he keeps having 5 goal contribution games,
10
I think
goals,
that's
6 assists so far.
Possibility.
Yeah, 10-6. Or Brian White, I think, will get some shout. Ty Baribo? Jordan? Golden Boot.
I don't know about
Ty
MVP.
Baribo.
He can win Golden Boot, but
Yeah.
I think they'll
Messi.
I think they'll weigh some sort of assist. And I don't think Baribo is going to be getting assists that
Just
much.
one assist.
I had LAFC as the supporter shield.
Mm.
I don't think that really looks likely. LAFC, I thought they would get hot at some point. They still can. They're 6th place. They're actually only 3 points back of 4th place, and they have 2 games in hand to most of those teams. But I would feel pretty good about Vancouver or Philly at this point being a supporter shield. You had Miami. They're still in it too. They are still in the supporter shield talk, I think. Okay, let's get to MLS Cup. I had Atlanta, and I called it a couple weeks ago that this is dead. The dream is dead.
Yeah.
Of getting this one right. So, my bad. I cursed the 5 stripes, and I apologize for that. You had Miami, and this is still in play.
Yeah, we got that. We got it. Let's go.
That's still in play. We had the wooden spoon as DC United, and not looking likely. I think we never thought the Galaxy or Montreal, right, would be. Is that who's down on the East? Yeah. Montreal and LA are your realistic options. They both have single-digit points at this point still. They're the halfway point. So if you take that, just take the first half of the season and the second half of the season, the LA Galaxy would have the same amount of points that St. Louis has right now with 14.
That's pretty bad.
And Montreal would have 16 points, which would put them 1 point behind what Atlanta currently has. And Atlanta has had a disappointing season. I mean, both these teams are averaging less than half a point per game. That's crazy. Coach of the year? We had Sean DeLoach, Javier Mascherano. The Mascherano stuff is not happening.
Yeah, no. I think right now you're looking at probably number 1 is Jesper Sorensen.
Definitely.
Vancouver.
I'd
give Bradley Carnell some love.
Yeah, he would have a good shot.
Mostly because of where the expectations, I think, were for this Union team, were maybe a cusp playoff team, 6th, 7th spot, where a lot of people had them, 5, 6, 7. But Jordan, they're top of the East right now. They're currently leading the supporter shield because Vancouver has some games to catch up on. But I mean, those two, I think, would be the top 2, right? In this situation,
I think so. And then we had Golden Boot, Messi.
Still could
be determined. It is actually insane how many people are in the hunt with double-digit goals this early in the season. I feel like sometimes, like when we were looking at some teams of like their best player would end with 13 goals. We have Ty Baribo with 13. We have Surridge with 11. Brian White and Messi and Choupo-Moting all have 10. Like, that's a pretty decent list. Kuipers has 10. Denke has 10.
And guys that feel like they're going to keep scoring. Like, usually you can go, I don't know if they're going to. Like, these are guys that I think legit could keep scoring goals.
Joveljic having 9 is a shock because SKC
that is weird.
has been
I wouldn't
dreadful.
have expected that.
Arango has 9.
That. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot of possibilities here. Lot of possibilities on this. But if we go look at it assists, so if we go back to the MVP argument, right now Messi's probably leading that. If you're not going to give it to like a goalkeeper or something, or a defender, because Messi's got the 10 goals, 6 assists.
Yeah.
like Baribo has 1 assist, Surridge has 3 assists, and that's like the most. Surridge with 3 is the most, other than Messi, in that top double-digit scorer right now. Like Choupo-Moting has 1, Kuipers has 2, Brian White has 0 assists, Joveljic has 1 assist. Like Denki has 0 assists. Like there is maybe we are on track for the MVP right now.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you feel that we've done so far? If we look back to our predictions from earlier this year, you feeling pretty good about it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I obviously predicting this league and like if you're new to this league and you're like, gosh, these guys are awful. They're so far off. I mean, just go back and look at everybody's prediction from MLS. You'll
Yeah,
get the same kind of like, I mean, most people had Atlanta probably in their top 5
they
and
spent
look where
so
they
much money.
sit. Yeah.
People had
It's
the
just
Union not being good
right.
because of the Carnell
Nobody would have had,
replacing Curtin,
yeah.
and
San Diego would have all been like 13, 14, 15. They're sitting
yeah,
second. Vancouver
yeah.
probably like in that 8 to 10, 12 range. They're sitting first. Like it just shows you how unpredictable this league is. Obviously, we got the cast of characters, so we're going to get close. I mean, if Lionel Messi's playing soccer, Jordan, and he's healthy, he's going to be
He
an
has a
MVP
chance to put
candidate,
MVP.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But everything else, I mean, you just it's fun. That's what's fun about predictions. We're never that accurate. We obviously get some things right just by luck, but it's just fun to kind of look back on what the expectations were because I think it's more fun to talk about where some of these teams have come from and and it shows parity in this league. I think that's it's huge for the league and there's this current argument going on obviously in the NBA and we're talking a lot of NBA, but there's a lot of argument about what's best for a league. And I think Jordan, what's best for any professional sports league is parity. It's kind of boring. I mean, I can speak from firsthand experience of my team always win the Premier League. It does like it kind of loses its allure when a team is constantly winning a league. So
you can
um,
speak on it too for the Pacers and the Thunder. I mean, like,
yeah,
um,
two
the
teams that have never won a championship and
right,
small
and,
market.
and one of them will, right, and you
Right.
have uh that type of thing is good for the league. While it may not be good for, like, I guess, TV ratings,
ESPN.
because
Yeah, it's not good for corporate America.
right, but it is good for, like, fans of teams to see other teams win stuff
Hmm.
and be like, it's actually possible for our teams to win.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, it's a
100%.
possibility. We have a couple games coming up this weekend, like you mentioned, DC United in Chicago, 7:30. We have Rapids in Austin on Saturday as well at 9:30. There's a couple club friendly matches as well. Philadelphia versus Atlas. That's at 7:30, and then like San Diego and Club America at 10 o'clock. Sunday, June 8th, we have Portland and St. Louis at 7 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, we have LAFC and SKC. And then also at 9 o'clock, we have Vancouver, Seattle. So, yeah, like 5 league matches and 2 friendlies taking place this weekend. We'll have some MLS games. I mean, U.S. men's national team games that are going to be happening shortly. So next week, the plan is to talk about any of the friendlies that happen for the U.S. national team, Gold Cup preview, Club World Cup preview. Those type of things will be next week, and of course, those 5 MLS matches we'll kind of talk about. But we're not going to spend the bulk of the show like we did this week on MLS because there just won't be enough there. So that's what we're planning to do. There'll be also some random games on Thursday and Friday next week, but
Right.
so I guess we'll preview those too. But mainly, we're going to start looking ahead to those summer tournaments and seeing how those are shaping up and kind of give our thoughts on that. So that's that. Thank you all for watching or listening along with us here. You can contact us at Stateside Show on all of our social media. There's also a link for the email if you want to send more long form thoughts, or you can comment on YouTube. We like getting a lot of comments. We've had that a lot lately with our US based coverage or certain MLS stuff that people are commenting on. Feel free to leave us a comment. Let us know how close were you on your predictions to begin the season? Did you see this Vancouver run coming? Did you see Philadelphia turning it around? I know Philly fans that thought we wouldn't even have the amount of points that we have at this point. So, like myself. So, let us know what your thoughts are on how the season is shaping up. Who is your current MVP? How do you grade that? You can let us know all of that stuff in the comments below. And if we get enough comments about that, maybe we can even bring that up next week. But thank you once again, and we'll catch you next time here on the Stateside Soccer Show.